Hey, good morning, patrons. It's Wednesday morning, I think the 17th of February here in Sydney, Australia. We got some light showers outside. It should make it about noon on Tuesday back home in the States. So by special request, I want to do a little background information on behind the scenes, flying the line, the curfew operation, how you get in and out of the hotels here in Sydney, Australia. What drives an airline operation? An airline pilot gets paid by the minute. From the minute the brake is released to the minute the brakes are set on the airliner. All this other time is not paid other than per diem at a rate of about $2.80 per hour. So if you have a maintenance delay, you're not getting paid. If you are sitting on the gate waiting to move, you're not getting paid. You're only paid by the minute for the times that the aircraft is moving. So what can end up driving the operation in a lot of these international ops? Things like curfews, airport curfews, and or queues or lines at various ends of the airport or the operation. For example, going home today, we're going to leave here at about 11:15 local time. It'll be about a 15-hour long flight back to Los Angeles. That puts us in there at around sunrise, about 6 a.m. or 5 or 5:30 a.m. The customs in Los Angeles does not open until 6 a.m. So we need to kind of drag our feet or time it out such that we land there at 6 or not too much sooner than 6, because if we taxi all the way into the gate and park, we're just going to be stuck sitting on the gate. They will not let you or the passengers or anybody off of the aircraft until customs opens at 6 a.m. So that's one example. And then on this end of the deal here in Sydney, on that last video I showed you where there's the other aircraft flying right alongside us, that's United's flight. They tend to dispatch two of us out of Los Angeles at about the same time for Sydney, Australia. That can become a bit of a race to get to the front of the line for the quarantine here in Los Angeles. I mean, here in Sydney, because you can only process one crew and one set of passengers at a time through the quarantine facility, and it takes about 2 hours to get through the entire just to leave the airport once you land here at Sydney, to get through the entire process of getting swabbed, getting tested, and then another half hour, 2.5 hours total to get to your room. Every crew that lands at Sydney right now is going to get tested for COVID. You're going to get swabbed, and those results take a day or so to get. They've got all your personal information. They know how to get a hold of you. They can contact trace everybody on the crew. If anybody pops a positive, if somebody pops a positive, chances are the entire crew are going to remain quarantined for 14 days unless something else can be resolved before they are released. You could be as little as 5 days. I haven't heard of you being able to turn around and go right back home again. So let's go through that process here a little bit about how that works once you landed. Well, before we do that, let's talk about this race. We're in the 787, and we've got a flight plan that flight plans us for about 0.83 Mach. You can only go as fast as it's safely possible. And what I found flying down through here, you're going to fly obviously over the equator through the intertropical convergence zone. That is an area that needs a lot of respect. That's the doldrums. That's where the thunderstorms lie. Remember Air France 447? That's where these huge thunderstorms lie and lurking for you. They're not moving, and they're just sitting there. And it's in the middle of the night, of course, when you're crossing through there. And they've got some pretty huge tops and some severe turbulence associated with those. So you need to give yourself a wide berth from those thunderstorms through that area. And that intertropical convergence zone is about the equator, the thermal equator. So during the summertime, that'd be a little bit north of the equator, the summertime in the northern hemisphere. Over the summertime in the southern hemisphere, it moves south of the equator. So you got your weather radar on, and you got your weather app working with you to help you find these things, stumbling around in the middle of the night out there. And then what I like to do is a technique when it's my turn to, we're working in shifts. There's 4 pilots. It's about 3 hours on, 3 hours off, 3 hours on, 3 hours off for the whole 14-hour flight. So what I like to do is, you know, Oakland Center extends all the way down to the equator. The control, the people that control this airspace, halfway to Australia, that's all Oakland Center. So using CPDLC or the basically email, the typing and texting function on the aircraft, I like to CPDLC Oakland Center. When I get down here, there's nobody else in the airspace. You're 6,000 miles from nowhere. I want 100 miles left and right of course, and I'll request a block altitude of as much as 4,000 feet from my maximum performance altitude to 4,000 feet down below. And generally, it's no problem. Oakland Center will give it to you. And that gives you maximum wandering room around this flight plan line here to work your way around the thunderstorms. And then I'll typically slow down as it starts getting, you can feel the turbulence coming along as you get into this intertropical convergence zone. I'll go ahead and already slow the airplane down to its turbulent air penetration speed, which happens to be 0.82 Mach in the 787. And the flight plan's only 0.825 or 0.83, so it's not slowing it down by much, but it's slowing it down, and you're already in the optimum speed for turbulent penetration to avoid damage in the airplane. Coffee time here at Australia. So, so that will slow you down a little bit. Plus, you got wander time built into your fuel plan to allow you to wander around through these thunderstorms and safely get through the storms. Once you get past the intertropical convergence zone, pretty soon the sun comes up, and then you can pick back up to flight plan speed. At the same time, here comes United in a 787. They're able to fly just a little bit higher than us, and oftentimes a little bit faster. And they have, that's them in that video I showed you, passing us, and we're just going to go ahead and let them go because I don't want to get tangled up in this turbulence and in a drag race just to get to the front of the quarantine line at the airport. So we'll just take it, besides we're getting paid by the minute, and we'll just take our time and safely get to the airport and let them go ahead first. So you get to the airport, and now begins the long 2.5 hour process to get to your hotel room. So the first thing you do is you land and you wait. By the way, we had about 26,000 pounds of cargo, and we're beginning to bring vaccines down here to Australia, and we had only 25 passengers. The number of passengers that can come into Australia is limited by the amount of hotel space that's here in Australia. Hot hotels, as they call them, hotels that can handle COVID patients, not patients, but COVID quarantine folks. Anybody and everybody that comes to Australia has to quarantine for the 14 days, including all these passengers coming in, and that costs them $3,000 out of their own pocket to rent this room to stay here for the 14 days. You cannot leave your room at all. So first thing we do, we land and we wait. We get a pre-recorded message from the authorities about the quarantine situation here in Australia, and we wait until there's room in the quarantine line, until United gets out of the way. And then we are escorted off of the aircraft. Passengers first, and then the crew second. First stop is a temperature check. Shoot a temperature right there. And then a quick briefing on the procedure that you're about to partake in. Then you got at least 3 pieces of paperwork you filled out. All your personal information, passport information, email, contact information for contact tracing, 3 different forms for 3 different agencies. First stop is Customs Ag, where you declare that you're not bringing anything into the country. That hasn't changed. That stop's normal. You can't bring fresh fruit or vegetables into the country. Big fines if you do. Then you head out of the Customs Ag to to take care of your passports, just like normal. Give them your passport paperwork, and you're through that function, and then you're off to the to another queue, and this is all run by the Border Police or New South Wales Police or Customs, and they collect all your personal data. Now that you've got your passport taken care of, You're at this queue where they collect all your personal data so they can contact trace you if in the event there's somebody pops a positive on the COVID test. Then you turn the corner and come into another queue where you get your COVID tests. Everybody sits in a chair separate from one another, and one at a time you're called up and you get a quick swab for a COVID test. And here they do the COVID test with a long, skinny swab that they swab both sides of the inside of your mouth, and then with the same swab, in order to save the environment and not have so many swabs to throw away, they run that swab up your nose. And if you just close your eyes and hold your breath, it just tickles a little bit, quick swab of the nose, and they verify your information and put that information in a little vial, and you're done. But you got to wait for the rest of the crew, including all the flight attendants. So if we've got only 15 passengers on board, we have a full complement of flight attendants, and so that takes time. Every other flight coming and going out of Sydney is either we'll bring passengers in and then we'll take cargo out, or we'll take passengers out and we'll bring cargo in, cargo only. So when we're cargo only, we don't have flight attendants, we don't have passengers. So that would expedite the process. So then let's see what comes after that. I think after we are tested, then we're shuffled off to another queue where we wait for a bus. So you come out of the building and you wait for the bus, because now they got to determine which hotel you're going to go to. Normally in these airline operations, your hotel has been determined weeks or months in advance, and you know what hotel you're going to. It's the standard old place for that particular sequence. But now in Australia, with the situation, we have to divvy up the number of passengers and crew to the number of hot hotels, or hotels that are approved for handling COVID quarantines. And so your hotel is not determined until the very last moment with the bus driver on the phone there, and they make a decision. And typically it's been right here to the Pullman Hotel for us, which has been in the news here lately in Australia, which is our hot hotel, our quarantine hotel. In the bus we go, and off to the hotel, get into the hotel, get another queue of New South Wales police folks, which are pretty much running the whole hotel now. They get all your personal information again and have your room assigned to you, and you are basically escorted up into your room. You have no room key because you can't leave anyways. They open the room for you, and in you go. And a bored fellow with a cell phone is waiting down the hallway to make sure nobody leaves their room during the time that they are quarantined here. The result of all this is that Australia basically has no COVID. I don't think they've had a new case of COVID here in New South Wales in over 30 days. They have really locked down on this, cracked down on it, and are virtually COVID free. So as a result, the folks that live here in Australia, domestic, they don't need to wear masks. They don't need to worry about COVID much at all. They can get on life pretty much as normal because it's not a problem down here. Very, very strict COVID quarantine procedures. So you can expect to spend 2.5 hours once you land before you get to your hotel room near the airport. That's the basic procedure there. When we leave, it'll be pretty straightforward. Just everybody meet downstairs, get on the bus, and head on out to the airport and to the airplane. The airport is pretty dead. There's nothing going on at the airport other than those handful of crews that are operating at that time. And blast on back to Los Angeles, where we'll wait for customs to open at 6 a.m. Just breeze through customs, no COVID considerations or quarantine or anything like that going on there. Those COVID test results are available online from the test that you got here in Australia. And I'm sure if something came up positive, they would you would hear about it and they would track you down. So that's the update from here in Sydney, Australia. I'm going to head back up to Los Angeles, and it gets tedious doing these procedures, and I put in for a month off, which they're offering these leaves of absence because it looks like we got another round of furloughs possibly coming. They're threatening 1,800 furloughs coming up here when the airlines are basically running on a government handouts right now to a large extent. And so in order to mitigate these furloughs, they're offering leaves of absence. So I put in for a 1-month leave of absence. I got a 3-month unpaid leave of absence coming up. That would be March, April, and May. So I'm going to do some Blanco Lirio adventures and enjoy that time off and take a little practice run at retirement here. 3 months out with no pay, and have a lot more content here on this channel. Thanks so much for your support. We'll see you here. By the way, the meals are provided you 3 times a day right at your doorstep. The chicken curry was outstanding last night. The brown bag specials hot on your doorstep. On this leave of absence, you maintain your seniority and you maintain, of course, all your benefits, health, dental, and that sort of thing while you're on the leave of absence. See you here.